Russia is now getting into crypto transaction monitoring. So Rosfinmonitoring, which is Russia's agency for preventing crime financing and money laundering, chose a contractor to develop a proprietary Bitcoin transaction tool for 14.7 million Russian rubles, which is 200,000 in American dollars. So the company's named RCO. It's owned by a Russian IT company called Rambler. And Russia has been looking for a tool like this since 2018. So it's been 3 years in the making. And last August, Rosfinmonitoring had said it was going to create its own internal tool, and then end up putting it out, this contract on auction, and RCO won the auction. And so we all know here that the US has been using Chainalysis for some time. And I'm curious to know from the group, what is your reaction to Russia finally jumping into the transaction monitoring game for crypto in 2021? What do you guys think about this?
Well, also, like $200,000 is not enough.
It's
like,
not
does that
a lot
cover
of money.
a single developer for even a year? Like, that was mind blowing to me. They must be cheap in Russia. Adam, like, I'm going to throw to you for your initial thoughts.
Yeah, so I mean, governments want to know who's doing financing of people that they don't like. That really doesn't matter whether you're talking about the United States or you're talking about Russia. Everybody has political enemies, and we see increasingly in this world that financing is something that people view as almost a form. I mean, money flows should in theory be neutral, right? And then there are things that governments don't want people to do with money, and so you get controls as a result of that. And then because those controls are in place, it's very easy to then apply those controls to things that might not have warranted the controls unto themselves, but once you've got them, hey, why not use them, right? So we see the same thing here. This just looks to me like a domestic version of tools that already exist and are already in use by governments around the world. And again, it all comes back to the fact that neutrality that Bitcoin offers, again, one person's freedom fighter is another person's terrorist, right? It's really a question of what's your perspective and whether or not people should be allowed to have money. Again, governments would love to be able to make that decision, and protocols like Bitcoin and others make it very challenging to do so.
Yeah,
that's such a good point.
But I do also like Naomi, the fact that this is like a $200,000 deal. Like, I think initially this the government was looking at putting a couple million into this project, and I don't know how something for 200,000 is actually going to like work, if it's actually going to be as effective as like Chainalysis and others. But it's always been hard to kind of determine like how crypto friendly actually Russia is. I remember a couple of years ago interviewing one of their oligarchs who was getting into tokenizing Nornickel or whatnot, and so there definitely is a lot of interest in crypto in Russia. Lots of Bitcoin miners using abandoned nuclear plants there, but it's hard to tell where exactly the government lies on kind of this stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, when we say government, we always think of it as this like single entity without realizing that there are different players. Like, you look here in the States, you've got Alumnus, who has just been working with Wyden to try to scale back the disastrous infrastructure crypto aspects of the bill. And so you've got, amazing people in Wyoming who are all for it, but then you've got people like Eric Gensler who are like, let's ban everything. And Russia, I mean, it's a completely totalitarian country. So I think that we do need to think of it in terms of, sure, they might be interested in tools like maybe they want to skirt different sanctions, or maybe they want to do things like there are ways that cryptocurrency could definitely help them. But also at the end of the day, they are also about controlling their citizens. So they don't necessarily want those same tools to apply and the same freedoms to apply to their citizens. That's going to be the same with any country. Like, if they find that there are good things about cryptocurrency that help the nation state, they don't necessarily want the citizens of that nation to have those same tools, because nation states are all about maintaining the status quo, maintaining power structures, and all of that. But it is, I mean, Jen, back to your point that you made in the last segment, talking about this storm that's brewing, right? I definitely think that we are seeing all of this come to a head in terms of regulation and surveillance. I don't think it's going to be scaled back from here. I think it is going to get worse. We're going to see more and more of these stories. But what are your thoughts on what's going on in Russia?
Yeah, when I was reading the story, we talk about ethics so often when we talk about these tracking companies like Chainalysis. And it was curious to me. I thought, I wonder why the government hasn't tried to use these tracking companies. Why are they doing it in-house? And maybe that ethical concern has come up. Maybe they haven't been able to find a tracking company that will take on a contract, and now they've had to employ a developer for $200,000 to make their own. So I don't know. I really just thought about the ethical issue with these tracking companies, and we'll see what happens in Russia. But Adam, I saw your hand go up.
Yeah, I got a couple of comments. So again, implying that there are ethical concerns, sort of ignore, like that could very well be true. But I think that the thing that I'm more questioning is, does the contract that Chainalysis and many of these other companies have with the U.S. government preclude them from working for foreign governments that the U.S. does not consider friendly?
That thought makes way more sense than mine.
Well, I think that may be a play. I don't really see these players typically as particularly concerned about ethics, right? Like they're concerned about creating products that are useful. And then on the other side, the cost, again, like to build a transaction analysis tool isn't that expensive, right? Like, sure, you could spend a lot of money doing it, but once the kind of best practices are already established, then it's really just, you could do that. And then labor is cheaper as far as the type of programmers who you would need in Russia. And then finally, just the thing that I want to end us on is that you got to remember that although Russia has things about cryptocurrency that it does not like because it impacts its control, the biggest loser in any world where cryptocurrency is a winner is the United States government, because they issue the global reserve currency. And by nature of issuing the global reserve currency, they have so much to lose. And I mean, we're all based in the US here, so we all have a lot to lose as a result of that. But the US government is really the entity that is playing the game, I would argue, the best, in that they are trying to thread the needle, right, where they don't trigger a Streisand effect, but where they slow it down and they drag it out. And they, again, like a lot of the stuff we're seeing Treasury start to talk about now, very, very concerning to me, because it implies that maybe we're coming to the end of this quiet period and there will be some meaningful actions that could change the space significantly. But we'll have to wait and see about that.